Good morning guys. I just wanted to update you on our current situation. The last video that I posted was about our fertility appointment and how anxious I was and how nervous I was leading up to that, especially about not getting answers. So the fertility appointment went really well. The new specialist, which we are now going to see instead of our fertility specialist that we're seeing to begin with, he was fantastic. He explained everything really well. He did say that he didn't want to do a laparoscopy on me because of all of my scarring on my stomach and internally, because of all of my previous surgeries. He said that he doesn't think that I have anything to suggest endometriosis or excess scarring or anything like that. He said, and until we have a definitive, that is our only option. He said he didn't want to do it because it was too risky. The chance of infection with my bladder and my recurring UTIs is just too high, and he did not want to risk that, which I guess is what our old fertility specialist said. However, he didn't exactly explain it that way. He kind of explained it as if the scarring that he was talking about was either in my uterus or on the outside of my uterus, like endometriosis or something, because of all of my surgeries. Not that it could possibly cause too much damage, or it could be my recovery might not be as what a normal person's would be, and that he didn't want to risk that. He kind of just said, no, we're not doing it, this is why, and that's it. He didn't really want to sit down and actually talk to us and explain it. So I found the new specialist really, really good with that. He explained everything so well, and I just couldn't believe how wonderful he was. He was running an hour late, and he was so apologetic when we finally got to see him. And I've never, in all of my time seeing specialists, I've never once had someone actually apologize for running late. It's kind of just you turn up and expect them to be at least a half an hour late. So he kind of said he was happy with us to go forward with the same protocol that our old specialist had suggested. And he said that we could do tracking cycles, but it was completely up to us. It is a little bit expensive, and, it just depends. So I ended up speaking to the nurse there, because they wanted to get my progesterone levels checked in my last, in my last cycle. They wanted to get my progesterone levels checked to make sure that I was ovulating on the 2.5 milligram Letrozole. And I did. My progesterone was at 43 this month, I think. Last month it was 44, so both really good numbers. Now, as far as I'm aware, I was ovulating before I started taking the Letrozole. My old specialist never suggested doing progesterone to check whether or not I had ovulated until I started the Letrozole. So realistically, I used to get an LH surge, but sorry about that. So I used to always have an LH surge, but there was never any proof. We had never done testing to make sure that I was actually ovulating. I've kind of looked into it, and there's they have said that you don't, if you have an LH surge, then you will ovulate. But in saying that, who really knows, when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I was glad that he was willing to check my progesterone. He gave me a heap of forms so that every month between now and when we go through IVF, if we don't fall pregnant beforehand, that I could get my progesterone checked every time. He also gave me pregnancy tests, blood pathology pregnancy test forms, so that way I didn't have to worry about taking a home pregnancy test if my period was late, because of my augmentation with my bladder. It causes false positives in some tests. First response haven't been too bad. I do usually get a an evap line basically straight away, but it's not a definitive line, whereas with Clear Blue and the Clear Blue Digital, it was a solid line, and it came up saying, yes, you're 1 to 2 weeks pregnant, and I wasn't. I had a pregnancy blood test done, and it never actually came up with anything. I think my level was at a 2, so just a normal level, basically. So basically, I spoke to the nurse there, and she, honestly, I've never met such a lovely person in my life. She was so beautiful and so helpful. I spoke to her and said, can you tell me my results? And she actually went through them with me and explained, this is what this means, this is what this means, this is what we're going to do. And then she said, look, it's up to you. Like, what I want you to do is call me if you get your period. If you don't, then take a pregnancy test at home. If it comes back positive, obviously, skip that part. But go and get a blood test done to confirm. And she said, if you don't get your period, I want you to call me anyway and let me know. So I called her and let her know that my period came. It came on I think it was the Sunday. Oh, no, sorry, it came Monday, but it was a public holiday, and I forgot to call her Tuesday, so I didn't call her until the Wednesday. And those in the fertility world know that a lot of things happen on day 3, so I made sure to call her on day 3. And she said to me that they wanted to change up my the days that I take my Letrozole. So I was taking it from days 3 through till 7, and now I'm taking it from 5 to 9. I had a blood test done yesterday to check my FSH, which is the follicle stimulating hormone. My, what else was it? Estrogen level, so estrogen level. And can't really remember, but there was a couple others in there as well. So I'm getting that. I had that test done yesterday, and the results should be back today. And then I also have an ultrasound today at 1:00 to see what follicles I have. And if they're big enough, then I will give myself an injection tonight. So stay tuned, because there might be an injection in this video. They said that if there is any more than three solid mature follicles, or what looks like mature follicles, that they will not trigger, and they will suggest to us not to have intercourse during that time, because it is too risky for multiple pregnancies, and they try and avoid that in a person with a healthy body. And then to add in the fact that I'm going to be a high risk pregnancy anyway, it kind of just defeats the purpose, because at the end of the day, we want a healthy baby and me to be healthy as well, which with more than 2 eggs, or say 3 eggs, if we were to end up with triplets, I would say at 12 weeks I would be hospitalized, and it just wouldn't be good. So she agreed that if there was any more than 2, they wouldn't do it. So fingers crossed today we can get 2 good follicles, and we can, I can, because Dylan is petrified of needles, I can give myself the injection tonight, and I should ovulate over the weekend. Today is Friday, by the way, so I should ovulate over the weekend. And if I don't have enough, if the follicles aren't big enough today, then there is a chance that I will actually inject on Saturday or Sunday, and then obviously ovulate following that. So that's what we're doing at the moment. I have been pretty beyond stressed. Those in the infertility world, people who are going through this, you understand how frustrating and how devastating it is every goddamn month. And it's just one thing after another. And this month we've actually had my next door neighbour, who is also a really good family friend. He passed away, and his funeral is this morning. So I have to go to work, then to the funeral, then back to work, then to my scan, and then back to work. So it's been a pretty hard month, I would say. Yesterday I went back to my GP, And I had seen him on Tuesday about going back onto any anxiety and any depressants. And he kind of suggested that, like, there isn't any real evidence that they can cause harm during pregnancy, but it also is kind of inconclusive. So there are some things that are possibly linked, but they don't actually, there's no solid evidence to say that it is. So he did give me a script for it and said, you know, like, if you feel like you need to take it, I want you to take it, but take your time to make the decision, have a chat to your fertility specialist, see what they say, see if they agree with it. So I'll speak to them about that today. And I officially got diagnosed with moderate anxiety disorder, which, for those of you know, I lost my father to suicide 2 years ago, and it's been really hard to advocate for people struggling and to be telling people, you know, make sure that you ask for help, say that you're not okay, and reach out to people, reach out to your friends and your family and get support from them. Find out, like, try and find things that make you happy and do them, and just do, like, look after yourself, because at the end of the day, what we've been through is absolutely horrific. It is honestly it is the hardest thing I've ever had to go through, and I do not wish that upon anyone. So for me, my mental health is really important. However, the last 2 years I've kind of neglected it because I've been so scared that I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to go down that path, and I don't ever want my children, when I do get to have them, to ever have to feel the loss that I felt. And that's just terrifying to me, to think that someone can get to the point where they think that people are better off without them, that they are literally better off not being on this earth. And that is absolutely petrifying, and I never want to get to that point. I never want to get to that stage. So I kind of, I guess, subconsciously thought, if I just ignore it, it'll go away. I've always had anxiety and mild depression, but with my anxiety comes depression. So I'm not clinically diagnosed with depression, because my depression comes from if I'm anxious or if I'm overstressed, because I overthink everything. When I overstress or overthink and I have so much going on and my mind is going a million miles an hour, my body just shuts down. I don't have any energy. I don't want to do anything. I get depressed. I don't do housework. I don't do well at work. I just don't want to do anything. And it only seems to happen when I am overstressed and over anxious about something. Being going through infertility. What else is there? That's just it's stressful and it's exhausting. But to finally have a diagnosis, which when I saw a psychologist before, I never really got a solid diagnosis. They didn't actually, I don't think I saw them for that reason. It was more so I needed the tools to help me. I was having panic attacks and stuff, so obviously I had anxiety, but it was never formally told, I was never formally told my diagnosis. So to finally have that is really comforting, that I'm not just going crazy. And I guess now it means that I can see a psychologist. For those who want to speak to a doctor about it or see a psychologist, in Australia you can go to your doctor and ask for a mental health plan, and you get 5 free visits with a psychologist or whoever they recommend you to see. So I think it is definitely worth doing. They're not cheap usually, so especially private ones, which in Muswellbrook they only have private ones. So it's definitely worth looking into if that's something that you want to do. But I think having that diagnosis really kind of hit me, because I realized that I have been struggling a lot more than I would have liked to have believed, and that I wanted to know. I really just kind of put it off oh, it's just because of infertility, or it's just because I, am still grieving, or, it's because this happened this month, or this happened, or, because my doctor was being an asshole. Like, I just put it down to the fact that I had so much going on, that I was so stressed. I am starting a new job in a month's time, which is really exciting, but also very nerve-wracking, making me very anxious. I just kind of put it down to the fact that it was just life and that's how I had to live. And probably about a week ago, or maybe even 2 weeks ago, I was driving home from Newcastle from one of my appointments, and I was listening to a song and started crying. And I'm talking like sobbing, like grief sort of cry. And I kind of thought to myself, I don't even know why I'm crying. And when I thought about it, I cry a lot, like a lot more than a normal person should cry. And not necessarily sad cries. Like, I cry at, I see something happy on TV, on an ad or an interview, or I watch a YouTube video and something good happens, I cry. I can't stop it. And, the moment something sad happens, I watch a lot of infertility stories. I watch a lot of people, like lifestyle videos, with people with kids and things like that. And, sometimes there's things that are sad on there. And for a normal person to watch it and go, oh, wow, that's really sad, I'm sitting in my car sobbing about it. And I kind of take that emotion on, and then that will set me for the rest of the day. So I guess that diagnosis is really, and I think that's when I realized that if I'm crying an excessive amount and I don't actually know why I'm crying, there's no real reason. Sometimes I would just be sitting there and say on the lounge talking to Dylan or something, and I would sit there and then all of a sudden just cry, because I had started running through my head, what are we going to do if we don't get pregnant, or how are we going to cope, how are we going to pay for this month, what are we going to do? It's just one thing after another. Or even if it's sitting there and something reminds me of Dad and I just get triggered, and it just doesn't help, because people are so insensitive and they just don't understand. And that's fine, because they don't have to, and I'm glad that they don't understand. I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. And I know that they say that you only get given what you can handle, but I struggle a lot. And if you're struggling too, you're not alone, because this is so lonely. Absolutely lonely. So I guess basically I'm a mess. We're doing an injection today, hopefully, fingers crossed, going for my ultrasound, and I actually have to go to work now because I'm running late again. So I will see you guys in a little while. Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a quick update on today. It hasn't really been a very good day. So I had the funeral this morning, and then I went back to work for an hour, left and went to my appointment for the ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech was really good. Turns out I actually know her. I used to work with her husband when I was younger, and she was really good. She explained everything to me, what follicles I had and everything like that. So I had a 21 millimeter follicle on my left side, a 20 millimeter follicle on my right side, and I think a 17 millimeter one as well, but I'm not sure what side it was on. So the results got back to my fertility specialist, and they said that they were not going to trigger me today, because they won't trigger for a natural cycle with three or more follicles that are seem to be mature, because their chance of multiples or triplets and things like that are extremely high, and they don't want to risk that. So they said, your follicles look really good, your lining looked really good, but your estrogen is really low. So they said for the follicles that I have and how much they were growing and how good they looked, they would expect my estrogen to be at over 1,000, and it was at 124. So basically that means that the eggs aren't actually growing as they should, or if they, like, they're not giving off the estrogen, which means that they're like growing to be mature. So basically my follicles look really good, but the eggs inside those follicles aren't growing how they're meant to. And then they said that the only really, like, the next option for us is to go straight to IVF. They think that we've now done, this will be cycle 5, I think, of letrozole. And they said with my estrogen levels how they are, they would recommend for me to go to IVF next. So, which we knew was going to be our next step anyway. This was kind of just a stepping stone to make sure we had basically covered all bases. So I guess it's not that big of a deal. Like, we were well aware that this is probably where we were going to end up. But in saying that, I did get a little bit, I guess, excited and hopeful that this month was finally going to be it, that, you know, like, we were trying something different and it could be it, and got myself a little bit hopeful and excited, which I don't think is a bad thing, but it definitely, like, I feel let down. Like, I feel like I've let myself down. I feel like I've let Dylan down, and I know that that's stupid. I know that that's silly, but it's just, I'm just so over it. I just want to crawl into a ball and watch some Netflix and do nothing. So that's exactly what I'm going to do tonight. And I don't know, we'll have to reevaluate our financial situation. Like I said earlier, I start a new job next month, so I don't know whether or not it's going to be something that we can move forward with straight away. I'll have to speak to my new manager about that and see if it's an option, or if we're going to have to wait another couple of months like we had planned. That will also depend on whether or not we financially are ready to jump into it yet, or if we have another couple of months up our sleeve to be able to save. So what are we now? We're the 3rd of May, and our next appointment is the 26th of June, which I can move forward, but I think we might just leave it there at this point. That I will have been at my new job for just over a month, so hopefully they will be okay with that, me taking some time off then. They are aware as to where we're at and what we're doing, so hopefully they will be supportive of that, and we just take it as it comes, basically. So unfortunately, I didn't get to inject myself today, and I didn't get to have the answers that, or the results that we wanted, but that's the game of infertility, I guess. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.